live. Welcome to the show, folks. It is Wednesday night, as always, and we're live wherever you may be. We know where we're at. We're at the table where brilliant, amazing, realist, and the rawest conversations happen. And we got someone tonight that promises to deliver. He brings it the truest and the realest as well, as always. And we got to appreciate him for being here. We'll give him his formal introduction in just a moment. But wherever you're at, wherever you're watching tonight, people, I hope you're doing fabulous. You know, there's a lot of problems out there, and I will admit some of these problems are self-inflicted. Not all of them, but some are. There are a lot of problems out there. So I try to wonder how I can look at the cup half full rather than half empty. Right? How is the bottle half full rather than half empty? Because, you know, mindset matters, outlook matters, and we got a lot of work to do. Because I ain't in the business of just letting things happen, you know, letting things happen to me. I'm out there going about and making change, taking my chances. I listened to a recent video on Kobe Bryant. I had a guy in here last week who just ran a full Ironman triathlon, and he told me at his gym I know he has all of these sayings of the Mamba mentality and what that means. And I recently watched a video of Kobe just saying, look, if you want something, you got to go out there and get it. There's going to be doubters, there's going to be haters, there's going to be naysayers. But let this be, if you're watching this, wherever you're at, your weekly reminder that if you want something, you got to go get it. Yep. There's going to be a lot of people out there that are going to try to deny you. But if something's really worth having, it's got to be worth fighting for. And so I hope you got your fighting gloves on, your fighting uniform, and you're ready to go, and you're figuring out the rules of the game, the rules of engagement of how to get there with whatever that may be, because everyone's doing something different right now. Regardless, the message is I hope you're doing well. There's enough negativity out there, as you know. We try to bring a little bit of positivity to the table, and that's what we're doing here in the social media space. So wherever you're at, I hope you're liking, commenting, and sharing. VOD Pod Media, we're here at the table. I am your host, as always, Mr. Maximo, Mr. Wednesday Night, Mr. Steal Your Wednesday Night, because we're going to steal it tonight, steal the show. And I'm here with the Honorable. Should we call you the Honorable?
Just call me Cruz, man.
Mr. William Cruz Shaw.
Call me Cruz.
Cruz, what's up, man?
What's going on, man?
Man, I'm happy you came down, man.
It's my pleasure. Am I using this thing right?
I think you are.
Am I good?
We're going to go with it until they tell us otherwise.
All right, bet. I appreciate you, man. You're doing great things. You know, I peeped it on social media, and I'm glad to be here, man.
Well, you're doing big things. I've been peeping you on social media too with your fitness goals, your fitness journey. So let's get into it, man. So first of all, who is Cruz? For our viewers who don't know, we have a worldwide audience. We had people watching in Jerusalem last week.
Wow,
I don't know how they got the view, how they got the stream, but I'm glad they're watching it, glad they're sharing it.
Right.
We bring multifaceted people to the table and just dive into all things.
Okay.
So for our viewers that don't know you, who are you in your words? Who is Mr. Cruz?
I'm just Cruz. You know, there's no glamour. There's nothing fancy. Born and raised in Houston. I love my city. I moved to San Antonio when I was second year in college. Been living here ever since. Went back to Houston for law school. Came back, opened a practice in the east side of San Antonio. Doing criminal law, personal injury. And ran for office. Won city council.
City council.
Yeah.
District 2.
District 2. Wasn't my thing, but I got offered an appointment on the juvenile side on the bench. So I took that appointment. I left council to become a judge, associate judge, and now I'm on the bench running. I already won the Democratic primary, and I'm up for the general in November, but I'm unopposed.
Okay, so let me jump in right here because you're telling us some big things right now. You're telling us you're a judge.
Right.
You're telling us that you're running again unopposed. So you will go into another 4-year term.
That's correct.
Where people, and we had this conversation before we turned the cameras on, where most people wouldn't expect to walk into a judge and see Mr. William Cruz Shaw as a judge, right? I mean, let's just be honest, right?
But you know what? I'll take a step further.
Okay? Let's hear it.
I'll be the first black man elected to district court in Bexar County.
Ever?
Ever.
Wow.
And I'm a black...
Because you went through an appointment first, and so now you're going to be elected.
On the district court side. And to just make sure we're clear, because I love my mother. I'm a Blaxican, okay? I'm a black Latino, and I'm proud of it. But, you know, I do got to, you know, give props where it's due. You know, I'm going to be the first. And that's not why I ran. But one of the old schools told me that I'm going to be the first. And so I looked it up and got the research. Like, yeah, you'll be the first black man elected at district court.
Wow. Congratulations. And that's an honor in itself.
But is it?
Well, I mean, there's got to be a first, I guess, right? You're not going to be the last.
It's 2022, and we're still talking about first in Bexar County.
There's a lot of firsts still happening nationwide. You know, we know the history of this country. I mean, unfortunate and shameful as it is, we've got people that are setting the tone moving forward.
Right. I agree.
And doing it for the culture.
Yeah.
because you got to do it, right? You
Yeah.
talked about Houston, talked about, mixed roots, talking about in San Antonio, East Side, all of that stuff. Now you're downtown. So congratulations on
Thanks,
all of
man.
this, man.
Thank
It's
you.
big stuff. So let's go back. So I understand you're from Houston. You grew up playing a little bit of baseball.
Yeah.
So talk to me about that.
That was my life. That was my life. It was crazy because my mother worked 7 days a week. And so on the weekends, our neighbor had a baseball league. And so that was my babysitter. So I played baseball all day long, weekends. And that turned into my life until I was in college. And so that's all I knew. And what's crazy about it is, and I see it happening today, is that since it's all I knew, when I no longer had it, I was lost.
Wow.
I had no clue what I was going to do in my life.
Okay, so how much were you involved in? I mean, were you playing baseball from sun up from sundown? I mean, what are you doing here? You mentioned you played in college, so I mean, this is very serious.
Yeah, I was dope. I was second baseman, Texas Southern. Got scouted by the Braves. I went to some single A tryouts. Got picked up. I played for a couple of months. I got cut and came back to Texas, and I had to figure my life out.
Yeah.
Because I was no longer an athlete anymore.
Mm-hmm.
And so once you step into that professional arena, you can't go into a college arena and play. So I was like, what do I do with myself? Why do I go to school? And so it brought me to where I'm at now, though.
So you're involved in public service. At what point did you realize you wanted to be involved in serving the community and out there being on city council, things of that nature?
It's kind of an evolution. It was never a plan for me. I love helping people. I love watching people succeed. I don't need to compete with you. I don't need for you to hate on you. I want you to be the best you can be, even if it's not even the best. But I want you to be happy, and I look at that in others. So whatever I can do to help folks out to achieve those goals, I'm going to do it. And it's always just kept going. And then I was asked to run for D2. I was like, yeah, I didn't think I was going to win. And the next thing you know, at election night, and I'm pulling up these numbers like, golly. Because mind you, I was in private practice. So now I got a practice to run with employees, other attorneys. Now I'm on city council. So I'm balancing two different lives. And it was hard. But, it is what it is. It made me who I am today. I learned a lot from that experience. And I just keep it moving.
So what's the difference between, on the private side versus the public side? We talked a little bit about that offline here just a moment ago, but, let's get into that. I mean, people talk about it all the time. Hey, politics is ruthless. Politics is a very, dog-eat-dog world, things of that nature. I mean, what do you think about that? I mean,
it's true. It's true. I think that for folks who really want to benefit a community or benefit a people, it's not necessarily politics. You can be in the private side and do amazing things. It's less red tape. There's less things that you have to worry about, less scrutiny. And as you move up, you're going to get that scrutiny. But in politics, as soon as you jump into it, it's there. It's there. And you have to deal with all the nonsense that you wouldn't have to deal with on the private side. I think politics now has become more of a profession. Like, people want to be politicians. And that's not the goal. You should want to help folks. That's it.
yeah.
Be smart, help folks, create legislation, or do good things for neighborhoods all throughout our city and our country. But some people just want to be there because now they're known, or because they get catered to. Yeah, that's the wrong reason.
It
It's
sure
the wrong
is.
reason.
I mean, how come so you seem like a really level-headed guy. You just want to help people out, very earnest. It seems like everybody should be this way. Now, what should be and what actually is are often two different things. I mean, I hate to believe that there's somebody that's a judge, there's someone that's a prosecuting attorney, whoever it may be, that sees the opposition or someone on the other end of wherever they're looking as an enemy, or someone that they're trying to take down, or someone that they're trying to have ulterior motives with. Shouldn't it just be about helping people?
It should. It should. At the end of the day, like in the courtroom, it should be about justice. It shouldn't be about being. I'm trying to get back at this person, or I want to see this person suffer. It should be about justice. But oftentimes, and especially depending on how you're raised, where you come from, or what you want out of life, people take it differently. I don't have to prove anything to anybody. That's just the way I look at it. Yeah. I don't need a stepping stone. I'm going to do what I think is right. I'm going to be fair. I know where my loyalty lies, and I'm going to stick with that. And what you see is what you get.
Yeah.
Some people are scared to be out there and show their true self because they're scared of being ridiculed or all that stuff. I'm full of tattoos. You see the way that I speak. I wear Wyatt Vetters all the time. They're like, what? that's who I am.
Yeah.
You know, and I'm okay with that. I love it.
So how'd you find this identity and this swagger to yourself, man? I mean,
know,
how did you come across this, man?
I don't know. I honestly, I don't know. It's just who I am. You know, I can't put it like I read a book or I saw a movie. I saw things, felt comfortable doing certain things. And then it becomes so liberating when you're able to speak your mind and not have to worry about repercussions.
So you never had like a moment that came to you and you've been like, okay, this is where I'm going to go. This is my arc. This is where I'm bending, you know, the movement towards more justice, or this is where I'm going to take my life, or this is where I'm going to dedicate myself to.
I didn't. I just, when I was a criminal defense attorney working with especially young kids that were in trouble, working with black and brown and the adult side, having these conversations and understanding, knowing where they're coming from and being able to relay the legal side of what's going to happen or potentially happen, and have those real conversations. And like, I remember hanging out with some cat that did this back when I was in high school. I know somebody like you back when, you know, when I was in middle school, and just kind of connecting that.
There you go.
And then realizing, you know, you're not a bad person. You just made some dumb choices. And just going from there. And just being yourself. I mean, that's just who I am. There's not one person that knows me. It's like, that's not Cruz.
Yeah.
What you see is what you get.
Well, that's why we were excited about having you tonight. And let me use the word that I wanted to touch on tonight as well. Evolution. Now we have a lot of viewers, followers, friends from all over that support the show. They come on and watch. They sometimes comment. If you're watching this now, you have questions for Cruz, let us know. We'll get to your comments, your questions. One of the questions I have for our men, we have a lot of males that you know we associate with. We operate in the same ecosystem. You know, I think us as men of color in this country, as people that have been influenced by a generation, you know, we have to mature. We have to grow, especially in your line of work. I mean, you know, how have you changed over the years to become a more complete, more well-rounded and dynamic human being, to be a true public servant, to be a good spouse, to be a good judge, so on and so forth? Because, you know, we have a responsibility to people, I think. I should want to do right by somebody, all people, no matter who that is, rather than take something away from them. Oftentimes you mentioned the word ego. You mentioned you know, taking the cup and taking something out of someone's cup. We should be looking to help people out. The door's getting ready to close. Let me open that door for you, no matter who you are, right? I mean, have things changed? I mean, have you recognized that you've grown into a more complete human being over the years?
Yes. And I don't know exactly when it happened, but when I quit caring about what people thought about me.
Okay.
When I was saying I no longer have to impress people. You know, when you're younger, you try to wear the nicest clothes, nicest jewelry, even though it's fake. They don't know that, so you try and just, you know, show out in front of company. But once I quit doing that and just being me, I feel like I'm liberated. You know, I can go out there and do my thing, and I know what I need to do. Right now, my focus is no longer on me; it's on my daughter. You know, she's 2 years old now, and I got to make sure that when I'm no longer on this earth, that she's taken care of. Not only financially, but I have to give her all the tools that I may have lacked growing up, but I have them now. And so that was a turning moment for me.
There you go.
And so I see things differently. Because this world is a very evil place.
It can be,
It is.
Yeah.
And a lot of people don't see the evilness of this world.
Yeah.
And you've got to prepare yourself for that. You know, you got to be prepared, have our mindset, got to be strong, but at the same time, forgiving and willing to contribute and help people. But you always got to protect yourselves. You got to look over your back and surround yourselves with certain people who have your best interest in mind.
Yeah.
And so once that happened to me, man, there's no holds barred. You know, if I'm not a judge, I'm going to be in the hood somewhere helping somebody out. I can be in private practice, supporting nonprofits, working with young men, mentoring. Even now, I go to schools and talk to folks about getting their stuff together. Because if they got to see me in a juvenile court, we got a problem.
Okay, so we're going to talk a little bit about what you do in the juvenile court in just a moment. I want to get into that. But, I mean, let's just say, okay, you're speaking at a local school right now, a high school. You got a bunch of kids that are, you know, getting ready to be kicked out of school. They're making some bad choices. What do you tell those kids?
First of all, I tell them that, you know, they always say it's a mistake. I made a mistake. No, you didn't. You made a choice. A mistake is when you mistake a 3 for an 8 or a 1 for, you know, a 4, okay? You made a choice to rob. You made a choice to steal. You made a choice to do drugs. That's your choice. But now with that choice is consequences. And you guys, if you want to be man enough to make those choices, you got to be man enough to handle those consequences. And so I'm really big on that. I'm really big on that. And I'm really big on, young men growing up, you try to be harder than you are.
Yeah.
You don't have to be hard. You don't have to be. It's okay to make good grades. It's okay to listen to your parents. It's okay to listen to teachers. You can still be cool and do those things. You don't have to live this life that you know is not you. Because you're trying to show out to somebody who, if things got tough, they'll snitch on you. They'll turn you in a heartbeat. I see it all the time. So just go out there and just do what makes you happy, and it's so much easier to do the right thing. Yeah. And then try to run around and do some bad things to people and think you won't get caught, because you will. And make life a lot more difficult.
Yeah, and that's the thing. I mean, it's not just young people. It's young adults. Yeah. It's all people that are, showing out a certain facade of who they want to be, right. of their lifestyle, right? And wanting to be hard and and that's why I talked about the men situation, right? Because we got a lot of men, a lot of brothers. I feel like we're kind of in the same age bracket, right? Our generation that are still trying to come to fruition about who they are, trying to recognize, who am I? What is my purpose on this earth? Some guys haven't realized this. Some of our brothers we've lost along the way because they've gotten lost somehow, maybe through addiction, maybe through, other vices, whatever it may be, right. So I find that, we got to find a reason. Maybe it's for children. Maybe it's because, you're fulfilling a family promise or something. You got to have a reason and a motivation to want to do things. Right. We talk about some of our brothers getting healthy, losing weight. Okay, what's your reason? Why are you going to do that? If not, you may never realize that. Right. We got guys, I feel like I'm going to be 100 years old and I'm going to have my contemporaries talking about, oh man, when I was in high school, man, I used to be, man, good looking. Right. I used to be in shape. Right. And I'm like, bro, you still talking about that? Like, you still talking about that right there? Like, what's up, man? Like, can't you be talking about something else? Yeah. What's changed? I mean, we got to have an evolution as people to want to change and do things in the present moment and not looking back. And I don't know, man. I find that some of our men have a stunted growth process, man.
Okay, yeah. I would agree with that. We lose our focus. Like, we don't know what our focus is. We're just kind of going through life trying to figure out that real short-term gratification. How do I get the baddest woman? How do I show that I have some money? How can I show out on social media or my friends? Instead of saying, what's the long-term game? How do I maintain my health? How can I think about these long-term investments? How can I be a better person, a better husband, a better father, a better friend? And we don't think about those things. But you know what? I think it's really difficult for folks to look at the mirror and point a finger and saying, what am I doing wrong?
Yeah.
How can I be better? You know what I mean? Like, look at yourself in the morning, like, you know what? Something's not right. How do I figure this thing out? We put up this front that we're just doing great things, and we know we're not, but we try to front like we are.
Man.
You got to be real with yourself. You got to be real with yourself.
So let's talk about your current role. Now, we're talking a district court, juvenile, 452, is it?
436.
436. Which, my gosh, are there that many juvenile courts in the state of Texas? Is that what it is?
So it's a district court. So all district courts have a 3-digit number.
Okay.
In Barrett County, our juvenile courts are separated from everybody else. Some counties, they may include them all with their civil side and the criminal side. It just depends on how big the county is.
Okay.
Since Barrett County is so big, we can have a criminal side, we can have the civil side, and then we can have 3 judges that we have now for the juvenile side.
Okay, thank you for breaking that down for us. You were appointed to this position. What do you do on a regular basis?
So I'm currently the associate judge. So I serve at the pleasure of all 3 judges. And I hear detention hearings because there's no bond system in juveniles. So you can't commit a crime and say, okay, talk to your grandma, hey, can you come bond me out? It doesn't work that way. You have to go in front of a judge, and the judge makes a decision whether or not you will be released from detention. So I do those all day long, but I also do either trials, or they call them stipulations. They're actually plea agreements. So I do pleas all day long. Kids are ready to get out of detention, or they're ready to get on with the probation, or their case may be dismissed. It just depends. So there's ever rarely a boring day. It's always something that goes on in our court.
And so, okay, let's talk about this. Who are these kids that you're seeing?
So our age group is between 10 and 17. I would argue that majority of the kids that we see or Latinos, but we are in San Antonio, Bexar County. The next number we see will probably be African American blacks, and then Caucasian, others maybe down there too. But I know that Bexar County is about, 6% black, 7% black? But out of those, 12% are in the juvenile justice system. So it's a disproportionate amount of African American black children that come to our courtroom. And as far as male and female, it's pretty balanced.
Really?
Yeah, it's pretty balanced. It's and the thing about it, man, the stories that you hear, it will shock someone's soul. And you're wondering, like, they're dealing with adult issues, but you expect them to act like an adult, but they're 13 years old.
Yeah.
Like, it doesn't make no sense. But you got to deal with it. We got, we're given the cards, the hand that's dealt to us. You got to play them. And my goal, like I was telling you before, is keep these kids alive and out the adult side.
Because they very well could be dead, right? Let's just be honest here. Or they could transition into the adult criminal justice system, which probably won't be as forgiving.
Right.
And I use the term forgiving, perhaps that's not the right term, right? I mean, we think about the legal aspect of it. But I mean, let's be honest. What are these kids coming down and seeing you for? You get a kid who was arrested, who was kicked out of school, right? Was picked up for what? I mean, what's going on here? I mean, what exactly is happening?
Now, times have changed since we grew up. Okay, I'll just say that number one. A lot of assault cases that we're seeing come through among siblings, and amongst parents, which is different for me because my mom's a 5'1" Hispanic woman.
You're not messing with her, basically.
No, if I ever touched her, she'll put them hands on me, and there's no CPS coming to get me. You got to deal with it. But we're getting a lot of those school fights. We're getting a lot of those. But take it a step further, a lot of gun charges or charges that they're not filed as gun charges, but guns were involved. Like they stole a car and they found a gun underneath the seat of the car. Things like that. Back in our day, it was weed. Kids smoked weed behind the gym, kind of in the car. Kids are doing meth, heroin, crack. It's different now. It's different. And just dealing with those issues.
Do you feel like these youth, these young people are policed differently?
Could be. I think there's a lot of various issues. The majority of the kids that we see qualify for a court-appointed attorney. So that means their income level, the family income level, is below a certain level, which is majority is poverty. We're seeing a lot of adopted parents come in with their kids, a lot of CPS kids, but a lot of grandparents, aunts, even friends that are trying to raise these kids who aren't biologically theirs, or there might be grandparents of the kid, and it's tough. You got folks that are 75 years old, supposed to be living their glory years, their golden years, but now they're dealing with this 13-year-old who can't act right. And so
why can't this particular kid or other kids act right?
It varies, man.
And based on what you see,
it's just there's a lot of trauma amongst these kids. A lot of trauma. They can be upset, like, where's my mom and dad? Now, they won't tell you that they're pissed off about, I don't know my mom and dad, but you can tell there's something there. And grandparents trying to raise kids in this age, grandparents are going to raise kids the way they raised them, back when they were raising their own kids. Raising them today is different. And now this grandson or granddaughter is hanging out with their friends, seeing how they're being raised, how they're being treated, and they want to rebel against their grandparents. Not realizing that their grandparents didn't have to do that. They could have sent you to CPS, have somebody else raise you. So it's a lot, man. It's a lot. And like I said, the stories that we hear on a day-to-day basis can really shock somebody's soul.
I believe it.
Yeah, you think, oh, this doesn't happen. No, it's happened down the street from you. Or the kids go to the same school as your kids. And it's tough.
It's scary.
It's scary.
Because you have a daughter. I have 2 children as well, same age.
Right.
And, you want the best for them.
Right.
And you think about having children, children need and deserve love, affection, care, nurturing, food, all of that stuff. And it sounds like these kids ain't getting that.
Yeah, some kids don't get this. What's interesting is that we have a lot of kids who, and the free, at home or wherever they are, just wilding out. But when you put them in detention or you put them in a structured place, they do great.
Oh, yeah.
They do great. But then once you get them back out in the community, give them a couple of weeks, they start wilding out again. You got to bring them back.
So you see kids multiple times. Let's say you see someone 2 or 3 times. I mean, what happens then?
It depends. It depends on the charge. It depends on a recommendation from, probation. It depends on their attorneys, the state. We get caseworkers that come in, CASA. We get a bunch of folks that come in on behalf of that child, whether to see them either go back home or be placed with probation or even sent to prison, which is called TJJD, depending on, like I said, the charge. It just varies, man. It varies.
Yeah, so these young folks are making decisions that are going to affect the rest of their lives. Some of them, perhaps haven't found themselves. Perhaps some of them are rebelling. Some of them have, dealt with other various life circumstances that have led them to this point. The part of the problem, though, is that, our system, as you know, probably really isn't set up for rehabilitation, right? I mean, what happens once these kids get caught up in the system, man? I mean, are they ever getting out?
I'm glad you brought that up. Bexar County is very progressive in terms of rehabilitation.
Okay.
And the reason why I know this is because I've gone to conferences, but I've also taken kids from other counties who commit crimes. They're put on probation, but they transfer to Bexar County because they want to leave that county. And I see the punishments they give these kids. Like a 15-year-old on probation to his 18th birthday for stealing a car. Like, wow, that's not rehabilitation. That's punitive. They're trying to prove a point to this kid. And we see that a lot. With Bexar County, it's more of a progressive rehabilitation model, meaning they try to go the less restrictive way to deal with this kid and their families. And then if they progressively get worse, then those restrictions get harder and harder.
Sure.
With the exception of, murder or, maybe sexual assault of a child, things that are very serious. They may go straight for TJJD on those matters. But, you're stealing a car, your criminal trespass, your weed. They try to get to the issue. In probation, they give wraparound services. So they don't just address the child. They address the whole family. Counseling, therapy, helping them with appointments, school, all that kind of stuff. So Bexar County is really progressive on that forefront.
And how did that happen?
I don't know.
Just practices, standards, norms?
I get, I'm learning a lot being there. I did do defense work, and I never realized that as a defense attorney. And I see more of it now on the bench. But having the chief probation officers be more progressive and understand that locking the kid up now does no good for anybody. We need this kid out in the community doing great things, being a part of our society. And I think they realize that. So they do a great job over there. Yeah,
it's interesting the approaches that some municipalities will take on matter and issues like that, right? Yeah. And what stances do we take if there is, weed, if there is, car theft, right? I mean, there's a lot of push-pull factors that determine, what those standards and practices are going to look like.
Right. It also depends on victims. A lot of victims are very vocal, and some are very understanding. They know they're their children, and they'll be receptive and say, okay, well, this is what I want in return for you victimizing me for stealing my car, graffiti, or breaking in my house, whatever. And some, they throw the book at them. And they're like, hey, I want that kid in prison. It's a criminal trespass. I can't send him to prison. Well, that's a problem. They need to go to prison. They shouldn't have been here. It varies. Yeah. It varies.
And if they don't get what they want to speak to the manager, right?
Yeah, sure. And then the thing about me, I'm willing to listen to you. And I understand. We've all been victims of crime somehow, some way. But then going back to thinking about the bigger picture, if my house gets robbed and they catch you, me sending you to prison does nothing for me feeling safer or my house being put back to normal. So how do I help you never do that again?
Yeah. And then let's talk about, on that same note, restorative justice practices, right? Because, who is being harmed? Now, if you had your house broken into and, the whole thing was burnt to a crisp, there'd be some harm there done. Restorative justice practices seek to, restore the damage that was done, right? From the victim, right? And the perpetrator or offender, right?
Right.
And so, what are your thoughts on some of these practices that seek to sit people down, talk about issues? I mean, just restorative justice practices in general.
I think it's good to a certain extent. It can't stand alone. Some of these kids have a lot of trauma that restorative practice is not going to address. We have to really dive in. If we really care, okay, we have to really dive into why these kids are doing what they're doing. Some might be just for attention, it can be. These cell phones have changed the game. because these kids will fight tooth and nail over their cell phones. I've seen more issues with cell phones than I have in a long time. So I think restorative justice, that model is a very prominent model. It can do some great things, but sometimes we have to dive a little bit deeper to figure out what's going on with these kids.
Man, because you're right. I mean, the phones, right? The things that people are doing with the phones. I mean, yeah, absolutely, it's changed the game. I mean, in all ways, right? I mean, we're talking business, we're talking
everything. Like back in the day when we were in school, if two people fought, they fought, and people just talked about it.
That was it. Right?
That was it. Now people are videoing it and put it on social media. So now everyone sees, Cruz get whooped, and I'm embarrassed. So now instead of taking that chance, what do? I come with weapons. I come with, bat, gun, knife, because I don't want to get embarrassed. So I got to show you that I'm stronger than you by using something else, which isn't making sense as adults. Well, even adults do the same thing. But it's changed the game, man.
Yeah.
It's changed the game. So,
man. You talking about some serious issues right now, man, and bringing it, man. But these are the realities I think that a lot of, I'm speaking generally.
Okay.
Generally, people would want someone that has committed a crime to be off the streets, out of sight, out of mind. We seek to discard certain people, certain instances and behaviors and want it away. We want it taken away. Oh, that person doesn't belong here. They shouldn't be allowed here, so on and so forth. We can't continue to just discard people from our communities, though. We should seek to help people, however we can help someone make changes in their life and, accept our neighbors, man. We don't see that a lot, I don't think, though.
Nah, we don't. To a certain extent, we may be very selfish. Yeah. We're trying to say, okay, you did this to me, so I'm going to do this to you. But I want the justice system to do it to you. That doesn't help anybody.
Yeah,
it doesn't help anybody. I mean, you're not going to be made whole again. And not only are you hurting this family, you're hurting the potential for any kind of growth, because this kid goes to prison. On the adult side, it's hard to get out of that, man.
Yeah,
it's hard. And so then if you have a whole community that's going through that, because most kids you're going to see are kids that live in poverty, that are black and brown, and it can destroy communities long term. So what can we do to make sure that everyone has an opportunity to grow and benefit from society and be contributing members of our communities?
Yeah, and I think one of the areas and opportunities of how it gets lost is through the voting process. Now, listen, let's talk about this, because it is election season, right? There are votes that are going to be counted up, early voting, runoffs, the general election, which is later this year, primaries, all of these things that are happening. Many of the people that look like us don't participate in voting.
Right.
They perhaps don't recognize the importance of voting, but you're talking about a position that you're currently in that is an elected position where you have a huge amount of power over someone that makes a choice, makes a bad choice, and their lives can swing in a lot of different directions from there. And that's not only from the juvenile perspective, but from the adult perspective as well, right? And so, we have to come to terms with how we want our governing society to function. Do we want hardcore punitive responses to be done for some kids smoking weed in the back of the gym, versus, hey, let's figure out how we can help you. How can we help change your life for the better? So on and so forth, right? I mean, what would you say to people that are watching this and saying, oh man, these elected officials are all a joke. I'm not voting. I'm protesting against the system. I'd rather not get involved and vote anyway.
I don't know, man. Honestly, if you think about it holistically, people say my vote doesn't matter because it's only one vote, for a couple of million people, But in essence, if collectively, if we go out together and make a strong stance and vote in unity, we can do some amazing things. And I think it's one of the biggest problems that we have. We're too busy with the internal fighting amongst each other. We feel that we always have to agree. And it's cool. If we don't agree, it's okay. Actually, I don't want to sit in a room with everyone that agrees with me.
Yeah.
Because no one's thinking. You know what I mean? We're all kind of like, okay, yeah, I want you to disagree with me. This is how it's conversation. And I'm not going to hold it against you, but how can we get a better understanding of one another? And then come together and use that at the voting booth or whatever it's called. Because our people fought for a long time to vote.
Yeah.
And I think now we're taking it for granted.
Yeah.
You know, people died for us, both of us, to have the opportunity to go into a voting booth and pull a lever or press a button. And we say now, that's before our generation. Now folks are like, all right, we've always been able to vote. No, man. No, so I do believe in voting, but I can understand the frustration because we seem to vote in very low numbers. And what changes?
Yeah, we don't recognize a lot of instant change,
Right.
which I think we know that change happens very slowly. But if you're going in and voting, you're getting hyped up about voting, you heard about all this hype and jazz, someone registered you to vote,
Right.
You're voting for the first time, you go and vote, and then the person you voted for does something you don't agree with. You're like, oh, man.
Yes.
Yeah, like I feel like I've been hoodwinked here. I feel like I've been suckered into voting.
And you may have. You may have. Because, you know, some people tell you whatever you want to hear to get your vote.
Exactly.
And one thing that when I was on council, I've always thought this. I didn't represent people who voted for me. I represent everybody in that district. So people who didn't agree with me, I want to hear from you. Let's have a conversation about that. That's the thing about me. I have no problem having a conversation if you don't like me because I'm black, because I'm a man, because I got tattoos. I'm okay with that. I don't need you to like me. We can have a conversation. Explain that. Explain why you don't like me. Okay, I get your perspective. I don't agree with it, but that's you. Do you. But I think we're scared to do that. We're scared with people being adversarial towards our either opinions or our belief systems.
It's interesting. But you also mentioned confrontation. People don't like confrontation.
Right.
People don't like to feel like, oh my gosh, I'm talking to a man who has tattoos and I'm feeling intimidated right now. He's speaking in a tone that's a little higher than what I speak.
Right.
And since we're different, then I feel like we can't have this conversation automatically. I don't like you. I'm not voting for you. We can't talk. Right. That's how I think mindset gets taken to different spaces, man. And that's how this dissonance happens with so many people inside. Because, I mean, think about it, man. We got a lot of problems with people that don't agree with us.
Right.
Or we don't agree, so now we're at war. There's culture wars happening inside this country right now on all sorts of things.
Right.
Roe v. Wade, Republicans versus Democrats, police, pro-police, anti-police. I mean, you name it. Everyone's at war.
Right.
Everyone's back and forth, bickering back and forth about all sorts of things. Team Will Smith, Team Chris Rock. I mean, this is a little bit of everything here.
Right.
I mean, and in the world of social media where everyone's got an opinion, everyone wants to throw something out there right away, some of which are good, right? Man, it's a little exhausting, isn't it?
It's very exhausting. It's draining. And I'm not much of and I did this once on council, and I don't regret it, but I did it. Somebody was talking a lot of mess about me on social media. I said, that's cool. I'll be at this coffee shop. You meet me at this coffee shop. You got a problem. And he never showed.
I already knew that you were going to say that. They didn't show for some reason.
And if you can talk crazy to me on social media, you can talk crazy to me in my face. And I'm not trying to be violent.
Yeah.
But I mean, have a conversation. I'm okay. You don't have to agree with me. You don't. I don't have to agree with you. I'll respect you until it gets to a point where that respect is gone from various, avenues. But we're scared to do that. Let's agree not to agree and move on, shake hands, and be respectful.
So that's a good question for all our viewers watching right now. If you're watching this, comment on two things. One, how do you handle constructive criticism? Two, how do you handle issues with your neighbor, with your family members, with your partner, spouses, your friends that you don't agree with, right? Because these things happen, right? You're going out to dinner with your spouse. You can't agree what you want to eat. You want to eat Mexican food tonight. You want to eat Chinese food. We can't agree. Right. Does that mean we're going to throw the baby out with the bathwater and get a divorce? What does that mean?
We ain't eating.
Exactly, right? We're going to just have to figure it out, right?
Yeah.
How can we coexist? How can we live together as a society rather than be at a perpetual state of war with each other? I had a lady come up to me today because in my workspace, I typically wear a mask.
Okay.
Just because. Yeah. Just because. She goes, well, it's nice to see your face today. I already knew where she was going.
Right.
Anti-mask. And I'm just like, man. She starts reading me the riot act about all these sources that she had that those masks don't do a damn thing, which she may be right. I don't even know, to be honest with you. But I just wear the mask out of respect sometimes.
Yeah, I dig that. Yeah.
And I'm just like, man, had I been in another type of mood, we might have been shouting at each other today.
Right. Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
But what's that got to do with her?
I agree with you.
I'm wearing this mismatched. Ain't got nothing to do with you.
Well, it's interesting what people find problems with, though.
Yeah, you're
versus what they don't.
Right.
I mean, to some people, if you're driving down the highway and you don't put on your left turn signal, that just grinds people's gears. Mm-hmm. To other people, hey, no big deal. If you got enough space, you can get into that left lane change.
Right.
No big deal.
Right.
But everybody has, I think, those things, and I think a series of push-pull factors drive people to really just get to a point where they want to snap, they want to lose it, they want to sound off on somebody.
Right. Yeah.
I see people lose their cool at the gas station on the attendant, and I'm like, what really happened here?
Yeah, it ain't about the attendant. It's something that's going on internally that you have not let out, and you're letting down that person.
Okay, so let's talk about that.
Okay.
Internal issues that we have as people. Mm-hmm. I mean, how are we dealing with these things these days? I think we know as men of color, people like us aren't typically rushing and talking to everyone and putting it all out there that we're rushing to get mental health counseling.
Right.
We're not talking to people about our issues, right? How are we handling specific issues, internally that happen to us mentally, psychologically, physically? Mm-hmm. I mean, what's going on there?
We suppress it.
Absolutely.
We don't talk about that. It's because, our communities and the way we were raised, that's a sign of weakness.
Absolutely.
Do I agree with that? No. But the reality is that if I have a problem going on in my world or my life, I got to figure that out internally. I got to either pray about it or figure it out myself, or both. And we don't want to talk to anybody. We don't want to use medications. We want to self-medicate. Many of us go to the gym. The gym is not just for physical; it's for mental.
Yeah.
And that's what helps me a lot. But we are just we're vulnerable. We're very vulnerable. But we're scared to show that vulnerability.
Yeah. I recognize that as well.
Yeah.
I recognize that. And that's kind of where I was going earlier, on the talk about men, because we put up this big, bravado. We stick out our chest. We have this big talk and walk. Mm-hmm. But when it comes down to it, man, we're gentle, tender human beings just like anyone else.
Right. Yeah.
And that's tough for some people to verbalize sometimes. Yeah. But if we're honest with each other, if we're looking in the mirror, I want my son to recognize that as well, because I don't want him growing up to be this, toxic masculinity type dude that's talking about this and that. That stuff should be gone, man. We should be putting that to bed.
You're absolutely right. Yeah. But at the same time, we have to be able to protect our families and our loved ones. Mm-hmm. So we have to be able to almost wear two hats. Mm-hmm. How do I say this? I'll say it. Sometimes I may need to be taken as a threat if it's going to protect me and my family, but it's a controlled threat.
I don't think there's anything wrong with that.
Yeah, I'm going to control my anger. I'm going to control my vulnerability. I'm going to work through this. But if you do certain things that jeopardizes my life, my family's life, we may have a problem.
Absolutely. That's more than fair. And I think everyone should have that.
Right.
I think, it is only natural. It is a human innate response to different situations. And you have to be able to protect yourself and your family. I mean, that's a common, what do they say? It's a human truth.
Yeah. And and so I think with young men, we're so busy trying to protect but then it gets real gray, because then we're saying, okay, what's protection? Is my you disrespecting me? Is that an issue to throw hands over or to become violent over? Or if you talk about my mother, there's certain things that we haven't learned to let roll off our backs and say, whatever, man. But it gets to a point, you step foot into my house.
Oh, yeah.
Then we got a problem.
Yeah.
We got a problem. And I think we haven't taught that to our younger generation, meaning it's okay to be mad. It's okay, but you got to work that thing out through counseling, through therapy, or whatever. But at the same time, you protect yourself and you protect your loved ones. And I think we get that confused sometimes.
Absolutely. So when you're not serving on the bench and when you're not, at the gym, what do you do with your free time?
Really?
Yeah. How do you spend most of your time when you're not doing some of those things?
So I'm at the house in my garden.
Really?
Yeah. I love
gardening.
I love plants.
Okay.
Yeah. So I plant. I do herbs. I do vegetables. I just kind of go out there and just every day I get home from work, I water, take my daughter out there, and she waters with me. Lost a lot during the freeze, so I'm starting to rebuild. But that's my comfort. That's my comfort.
That is what's up. I think more of us, need to be planting more gardens, seeking over, our natural foods and getting healthy that way and tending to things that we can nurture.
Right.
I think that's great. So what sort of plants do you have?
So I got a bunch of herbs, basil, thyme, rosemary, oregano. And so my wife cooks, she'll go out there, cut it up, chop it up, put it in there. Working on my green leaves, so kale, spinach, Swiss chard. And I'm working on the sunlight because where it's at, it's real difficult to get to grow. So I can't do the full-blown vegetables that I want to grow. But it's just, I'm learning. I'm not an expert whatsoever. I like to fail. And so when I'm failing, I'm learning. And so every year I come back with something new, something funky. I'm like, okay, I can do this. And I just love it. I was out there, love getting my hands dirty.
How'd you get into this?
My mother used to always buy me plants. And I just let this plant die. Like, I didn't know it. I was living in an apartment downtown, and I started watering it, and I started seeing it blossom, or blooming and doing these great things. Like, this is kind of cool. And over time, it overtook me. I enjoy it. When I'm super stressed, I'm out in that garden.
That is what's up, man.
Yeah.
I think we need more therapeutic outlets.
Yeah, absolutely.
Like that.
Absolutely.
In all ways. Whatever it may be. I know a lot of guys, and I've had this conversation with other people that have been in the studio. I hear a lot of people talking about, gamers and, man, these people are in their basement playing video games all day. Look, if that takes you to a safe space, hey, go ahead and do your thing. You're not hurting nobody. You ain't bothering me. Exactly.
Yeah.
But I think we all need to have, some form of therapy that, that takes us somewhere where we don't got to worry about certain things, where we can just let loose and unwind wherever that may be.
Yeah. And be yourself.
Yeah.
Yeah. Be yourself. So I'm out there in the garden. Like, I'm going on a trip tomorrow, and we know what's funny, what's stressing me? Like, how am I going to get these plants watered?
Are you serious?
Yeah, it's stressing me, man.
So how will you solve that problem?
I'm going to super soak my indoor plants today.
Okay.
I'm only gone for 7 days. So by the time I come back, it should be good, hopefully. But then we got friends that live in the neighborhood, so they can always stop by. But last night, I couldn't sleep. I was like, how do I keep this little fig tree alive? Because I killed 3 of them. So it's just my thought process.
Wow. So there you have it, folks. Cruz Shaw, the gardener.
I know,
Who would have thought?
Who'd have thunk it?
Yeah.
Who'd have thunk it?
So I also want to, spend a few moments talking about, you've referenced a few times your mother.
Mm-hmm.
And so we got to give a shout out to our moms
Oh, yeah.
that put it on for us. I know my mom is watching right now.
Uh-huh.
Shout out to my mom. She's in Michigan.
Hi, Mom. What part of Michigan?
Lansing.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
So I'm from Michigan.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, born and raised out there. So shout out to all the Michiganders out there. It's getting nice with the lakes, right? Summer lake life is nice.
I should spend time in.
Pull that mic a little closer to you.
I should spend time south of Lansing. God, they're gonna be mad at me because my goddaughter's from there. So I used to go there all the time and play those 48-hour softball games.
There's a lot of little towns. How far south of Lansing?
It's right outside. I used to fly into Ohio, to Toledo, and drive 45 minutes an hour.
So is it Jackson?
Nah.
Siena Heights?
Dude, I'm gonna text. I'll find out.
Albion?
Nah.
Adrian?
Yeah. Adrian, Michigan. It was crazy. And so on my cousin's side, they're all Latinos. And so I'd fly in, and then they'll put me on the Tejano station. Oh, you're from Texas. You like Tejano. I'm like, all right. I mean, I'll bang every once in a while, but that's not my go-to.
Yeah.
But yeah, okay. I know you're from Michigan. Cool stuff.
Yeah, Michigan's good in a lot of ways. There's a huge pipeline of Tejanos, Mexican American people from Michigan to Texas and back again. One side, my family got up there, wanted to work in the fields, and then to work in the car factories.
Okay, yeah.
And so that took a lot of us up there, and some of us have come back, back
dope,
down
man.
south again.
Right.
And so we have a lot of roots up there. But, let's talk about your mom.
Yeah.
I mean, you've been talking about some of the wisdom she shared with you. I find a lot of men of color have a deep affection for their mamas.
Right.
I heard a podcast with Evander Holyfield talking about all the wisdom that he done soaked up from his mama.
Right.
And you know what? Your mom raised you out in Houston, right?
Yeah.
You said Mexican woman 5'1".
Yeah.
My mama's 5'0".
Yeah, put them hands on you and one thing twice about it. No, my mom was a great woman. She is a great woman. She raised me and my sister by herself, educated. She was tough. She was tough. And so I think that's kind of what made me who I am. I know it's what made me who I am, to develop that thick skin, that fighter mentality, take the punch, and you just keep moving. I know that comes from her. I know it does. And so, I appreciate the way she raised me. And, being a Hispanic mother to the oldest son, you know how that relationship's kind of it goes back and forth.
Yeah.
But I mean, she's taught me a lot of wisdom, and even though she didn't teach it to me, I saw it in her, and so I kind of reenacted that in my mind and how that would work in my life, and I do it to this day.
Wow.
Yeah.
It's interesting, man. I had to bring that up, man, because, you know, I just know what it's like. I mean, we've been fortunate enough to be raised by really strong women.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I've been around a lot of, you know, positive role models of women, and just been strong, out of this world strong.
Right.
You know, strength from a whole nother, like, type, lift up a car to save their kids. Right. Underneath that type of thing.
I dig that,
thing. You know what I'm saying? Just some tough women, you know, and I think that they are representations of what it meant to be, you know, persevering through a country that really doesn't care about women.
Right.
You know, unfortunate as it is, man. Mm-hmm. We talked about some stuff that's in the news. I mean, man, you know, our women, our sisters, our aunts, our moms, they're continuing to go through things. And, you know, how can we as men be more supportive?
You know what? That's a great question. You know, I think sometimes we have to show, again, our vulnerability and realize that we don't have all the answers. And then when we see our women, mothers, wives, daughters going through something, we don't have to answer them. We don't have to be the answer for all their problems. Sometimes just listen. Women are smart.
Yeah.
They're strong. They'll figure it out. But they need a sounding board sometimes. And as men, we always want to solve women's problems. Maybe we just sit back.
Yeah.
You sit back, just tell me about it. And that's it.
Yeah.
You know, and it's a lot, man. It's a lot.
Yeah. So I got to ask you as well. Garland and I went to go to the restaurant just a few hours ago, got some food. He had his shirt on. He has an NBA shirt on. Okay. And we got to the restaurant. The guy helping us out said, "Hey, so you like NBA?" He's like, "Yeah." He says, "So what do you think about the Spurs this year?" And we're like, "Oh, man, here we go with the Spurs."
I know.
What do you got, man? What do you think about the Spurs? Yeah, I'll give you Garland's response. Garland's like, "Well, I ain't talking about the Spurs this year. You know, because they disappointed us. They let us down." I said, "Look, if Pop says if he's retiring, if he announces he's retiring tonight, you gonna care. So tell me about the Spurs."
I'm not a Spurs fan.
You're not a Spurs fan, folks. We've got a San Antonio guy who's not a Spurs fan. So do you follow the NBA?
Yeah, I follow the NBA.
Okay, so who's your team?
The Rockets,
Houston Rockets in the house.
Astros, and the Texans.
So you're a real Houston guy.
I was there with the back-to-back championships.
Ooh.
I just that's my home, man. I was born, and it's funny because I've lived in San Antonio longer than I lived in Houston now. I think
but if you came up in Houston, that's fair.
That's me, man. I've always been a Rockets fan. I'll always be a Texans, and I'll always be a Astros.
So you're an NBA guy.
Yeah.
Okay, so we had a guest in here last week, and I'm going to give you the same question I gave her since you mentioned Houston. And I mean, man, how good was Hakeem? The dream. I mean, come on now.
Hakeem was the truth. And he changed the game of basketball. But do you realize he didn't play basketball until he got to college?
I heard that. He was a soccer player, yeah.
So right now, everyone's is really big on Kyrie playing during Ramadan. So he's fasting. Olajuwon did it for all of his seasons.
Wow.
And won 2 championships doing it.
Yeah.
Hakeem was the truth.
No, he was.
And there's cats right now. I know Kobe went to him.
Yeah.
LeBron went to him on basic footwork.
Oh, yeah. I mean, and you know, it's interesting. I got to tell you this story as well. Everyone, when you're looking at the Hakeem highlights, they show that move that he gave David Robinson.
When
was it?
No, but when David Robinson won the MVP.
Oh, that's right. So it was funny because, you know, listen, I want to talk about the Houston Rockets and Hakeem, but I got to tell you this story just because I don't know when I'm going to get a chance to say it again. I ran into David Robinson. You know, he's involved in the community.
Right.
I ran into him right after they made the NBA TV or NBA television channel made the documentary on the Dream Team.
Okay.
And they came out with that clip of Jordan and Magic talking about that game that they had in practice. They said they ran it like a scrimmage.
Right.
And it was, you know, an infamous practice because the competitiveness
they were going at it,
they got was just unreal.
Right.
And I'm from Michigan. I'm from Lansing, Michigan, where Irvin Magic Johnson is from. And when I was coming up, also the Detroit Bad Boys were the truth. Now, Isaiah got snubbed on the Dream Team selection. There's a lot of speculation on reasons why.
No speculation.
But you know, you're talking about a time when the NBA was stacked.
Right.
I mean, you talk about, look at, in the 80s, 90s, you had the Celtics, the Lakers, the Pistons, the Bulls with legends.
Right.
First ballot Hall of Famers,
Right.
Magic, Isaiah, Michael, all these guys, right? Dennis Rodman played on a few of those teams,
Yeah.
right? They described that practice as like one of the best games ever played that no one saw.
Right.
Magic Johnson described a time that Jordan came up and dunked on David Robinson in the practice. Magic said it was the craziest dunk he's ever seen in a live game.
Right.
I ran into David Robinson and I had to say something, man, because I figured I'm never going to have the opportunity to talk to him. I said, hey, man, I just watched that documentary. They said the practices were real crazy, man. How were the practices? He said they were unreal.
I believe that.
He said they were unbelievable.
Right.
The competitiveness. You had Barkley, Ewing, Robinson, Scottie Pippen, John Stockton, Chris Mullin, Magic Johnson, Larry Bird, Michael Jordan, Clyde Drexler going at it.
Right.
Like bulls in a game.
That's classic, man.
I mean, that. Can you imagine being a fly on the wall watching those practices?
Yeah, and it wasn't like a practice. They were going at it toe to toe. Yeah.
So the question I have for you is give me your all-time starting five NBA.
Oh, man. God.
I got to ask you that.
Okay.
And you can pick it by position or you can pick it just top five to win.
I'm going to go with Olajuwon being my center.
You had to say Olajuwon. And that's the reason I had to ask you that because, man, how's dynamic? Defender.
Do you know I can't think of another NBA champion who won with only one All-Star.
Yeah, that's the truth too.
Like he had no All-Stars on his team. It was just him. And they won back-to-back championships.
Yeah.
Well, you know what? Barkley wasn't. No, he didn't win them.
No, Barkley wasn't there.
He was on the team. Wait, what does he do?
No, he said no. He said no, he wasn't there.
It was King Smith, Mario Elie, Robert Horry.
Clyde was there.
Clyde won one.
He was there for both or just one?
No, he was there. He was there for both, wasn't he?
Guyland, fact check it for us.
Okay. So 5, Hakeem, and I'm going to say this, and people that are watching this that know me are like, really? Tim Duncan?
That's okay.
Yeah, Tim Duncan's best power forward ever play the game. I'm going to go with Jordan because Jordan
you gotta say Jordan.
Yeah, Jordan is my era.
Who would you pick over Jordan at the?
It'll be a battle between Jordan and I'll put Kobe in there too.
Yeah, Kobe.
But yeah, of course LeBron. You know that's always a topic of discussion. I'm trying to think who else I would throw in there. You know, I like Curry's game, man. He's changed the game.
This is a hard question.
It is a hard question because I got to really think. Hell, I'd throw Sean Kemp in that bad boy too.
Man, could he dunk the Rain Man?
Man. God, I have to start Googling a few things. That's a good question.
It's a good question.
That's a good question.
Yeah, because it's hard to pick all time.
Right.
But it gives me, because here's the thing, there's no right or wrong answer.
Right.
It just gives me a sense of what you like and what your style is, right?
I'm real old school. I love the sport in the 80s, maybe, mid 90s. I think it slowly started to change to the recent times. I like the physicality that they used to have. And folks played. And what was cool about it back in the day, they didn't change teams.
Yeah.
So you had one person play with the entire team. And if that team was sorry, that team was just sorry. Y'all gonna figure this stuff out. Instead of jumping around trying to get different players. Yeah, I don't dig that.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I don't. That's a good question.
I like listening to the sports debates. If you're watching this right now, I want to hear who your starting five is. We talked last week about current starting five. I told her I got LeBron. Current. Like if we use this past season, I got LeBron, Steph Curry. I got, of course, Ja Morant, who's out there just playing phenomenal right now. I got Luka. I like Luka. I feel like he's awkward. And then I got Giannis.
Okay.
The Greek Freak. Those are my starting five. I think off the bench, you give me
of all time.
No. Just this year.
Oh, okay.
If I had to pick the starting five for this year, like an all-star team,
right,
of people that I would just say these guys over everybody. I think off the bench you got DeMar DeRozan.
Okay.
I think you've also got, someone said, what about KD? KD let me down this year. Durant. Mm-hmm. He just let me. Phenomenal player, probably one of the best ever, at his position. But he let me down a little bit this year in terms of his competitiveness
and his ability to lead.
That too, man. You got to step up and lead.
Yeah.
Everyone. A couple of years ago when the Last Dance documentary came out, people couldn't say Jordan didn't want to lead. They couldn't say he didn't want to take the bull by the horns and say let's play. I mean, he was going.
You knew it.
For better or for worse.
Right.
You didn't like. You hated him. Who cares? He's ready to win.
Right.
You know, and that is the difference between a team sport and an individual sport, where you have to pull people with you. Jordan made other people better, of course. I think that's probably why we would say he's the GOAT. You know, but there's still debating that right now too.
I'm still thinking about that. Golly, you gotta have
all-time starting five. I would say Jordan.
Okay,
you got to say Jordan. I would say center. You can go to a lot of different places.
No, you can't.
No, you could. You could pick Kareem. You could pick Kareem.
Okay, fair.
I mean, change the game.
Fair.
You know, Wilt changed the game in a lot of ways. But I think also, man, you can't overlook Shaq. I mean, what the Diesel was doing.
Olajuwon killed Shaq.
He did, but Shaq wasn't in his prime. Shaq was a younger dude.
Okay.
Shaq. They interviewed Penny Hardaway, and Penny Hardaway said, "Look, if Shaq would have been the Lakers, you know, Shaq when Orlando played Houston in the finals,
and got swept.
They said it would have been different. They said, now I don't know that he would have killed him. Shaq wouldn't have killed him, but the situation in the series probably would have been different.
Yeah. Or if Dennis Scott can make a free throw.
That too, right? That's too for Orlando.
Yeah.
I think, man, you know what? I wouldn't say he's my top point guard, but Penny Hardaway was smooth.
Oh, he was legit.
He was smooth.
legit.
6'7", silky. I think at point guard you can go with Magic. So I got Magic, Michael. Center you could throw. I would say just Kareem. Throw him in there.
Okay.
I would think the other two positions. I'd say I like Charles Barkley.
Okay.
Just because of he was undersized as a power forward.
Right.
He says that Tim Duncan is the best power forward of all time.
Yeah, I agree with that.
But I think for some reason I like the way he played. He could shoot the three. He could take you off the dribble.
He was physical. He'll get down there and bang with you, you know, and fight for rebounds. So yeah, I see that.
And then you know, for some reason, man, I like these guys that got a little bit of an awkward game, man. Dude, the hick from French Lick, Larry Bird.
Okay.
My man, this dude, how could you be so unathletic
so
but
slow.
still do what you did?
Right.
I mean, I got to throw him in there too, man.
You know what? Now that you mention it, I like Garnett's game.
You like Kevin Garnett?
I like Garnett's game. I like the emotion, the intensity he brings to the game. I love the way he plays. I would take that over.
You couldn't put him over Kevin, or not over Tim Duncan.
Oh no,
but they're both power forwards.
Yeah, but I mean, I'm just saying.
Yeah,
you know, yeah, man, that's
it's a hard, dude. If you had to name your top five, that's a hard question.
Like fundamentally sound, Tim Duncan's the truth. But
big fundamental.
Yeah, but is he going to lead somebody? I mean, like Kevin Garnett will get in your face, and I like that. Like, let's go out and win this game. And I just like the intensity.
Yeah.
I got to think about that, man. I'm going to shoot you a text later on.
Yeah, shoot me a text when you come to your senses on that one. I put you on the spot because I didn't give you no fair warning about any of that stuff. But we love our sports talk here, man. We talk all about all sorts of sports.
Okay.
We bring people on from all different walks. We have MMA trainers. We have different sports talk radio guidelines in the scene, and so we talk about a little bit of everything. Of course, you know, San Antonio has the Spurs. We didn't have a great season, but you can't, you know, say that San Antonio didn't have a great run when they did.
Right.
You know, Coach Pop, probably one of the best to ever do it. You know, when you talk about the best to ever do it, that's always overplayed, right? It's oversaid, but Pop is, you know, legitimately one of the best coaches I think that's been out there.
And I think the way that you can also articulate that as a good argument is that look at other head coaches now that came from the Spurs organization. Mm-hmm. So you got Steve Kerr. He's with Golden State. The head coach over at was it Memphis? No, it's black dude.
Mike Brown?
No, not Mike Brown. Can't think of his name.
Yeah, I don't know.
He was under Pop as I don't think he was even an assistant coach. He was low down on the totem pole, but he's doing big things. So Pop. He brought a different flair to coaching in the NBA, which is taking what you have. Like, do you think that Manu Ginobili or Tony Parker can do what they did in any other city other than San Antonio?
Probably not. No.
Yeah, that's all coaching.
Yeah,
it's all coaching. You take your pieces, you put them into a puzzle, and you make it work.
Yeah, and that's the other thing when I talked about that dream team in the '90s. The coach was Chuck Daly from Detroit,
right.
And it was, you know, man, those bad boys, man. I mean, they snuck in those two championships, I think in 89 and 90, something like that.
Right.
91, I can't remember the exact years. But man, they had some swagger too. You had Coach Chuck Daly was a gangster. You had Isaiah Thomas, the little
Bill and Beer, really?
Bill and Beer. Those guys were jacking people up coming down the lane.
That dude wasn't athletic to save his life. I know. You were scared of him.
Dude, here's the thing. In the 80s, man, in the 80s and 70s, you had NBA players who were plumbers and firefighters.
Right.
These guys today are freak athletes.
Yeah,
I was talking. I mean, Ja Morant had a great game last night against the Golden State Warriors. He is so like acrobatic once he gets in the air. The things
the way
he can do.
Gets shots off. Like, how do you get that off and make it?
The athleticism.
Yeah, I mean, he's dope. He's dope. The game has definitely changed. Some argue for the worse, some argue for the better. It's just a different era, a different time, and you got to appreciate it. You know, it's good to watch. It's good to watch.
Yeah, we're big fans of the NBA here. So if you're watching this, give us your NBA Finals prediction this year. Is it going to be the Bucks, and Golden State? Who knows? We'll see. But listen, man, it's been great talking to you tonight. What else you got for us? We're getting ready to wrap up the show. We've been on for a little over an hour. But tell me, what else, man? What else you want to talk about tonight?
Whatever you want to talk about, man. Just, I love being out in the community. I love working with folks. I just like to work. I like to work, like to help people.
You like getting your hands dirty.
I like getting my hands
Roll
dirty.
up your sleeves.
Yeah, whether it be in the garden, whether out in the streets. It was interesting when I was on council, and I'll never forget this. It was a shooting, and so me and some of my partners got together and walked the street. And like, are you serious? I put on my chucks, my white tee, and some jeans, and I walked. And I'm talking to folks. I just like people, man. I like working with people. I want to see people be the best that they want to be. And if they don't want to do that, that's fine. I'm not going to judge you on it, and just treat people with respect. And that's just the way I tackle every day. I just love working with people and want to see people succeed.
So you do seem like that people person. You do seem like you want to genuinely help people, and you do sound like someone who is genuinely deserving of our vote.
Right.
So if someone's watching this right now, has an opportunity to go out and vote for you, what do you tell them?
Get to know me. I'm still working for votes. I'm still earning your vote, even though I am unopposed. I don't want you to feel like you have to vote for me just because I'm the only person there. Get to know me. I'm on Facebook, I'm on Instagram, William Cruz Shaw. Send me a message. We can have a conversation, coffee, and you'll get to know who I am. I have no problem meeting with individuals about my stance on the bench or my experience with city council. And I'll be very open and candid with that conversation. Good
to know, man. Good to know. I'm glad you came down. I'm glad we were able to sit down and chop it up, talk about some issues, man. Talk about your starting five, what you're going to be thinking about all during your flight to out of the state. To your trip, when you're going to be thinking about it, oh man, who should I have picked? Oh, I should have said this person. But to your credit, there's a lot of greats, all-time greats out there.
Yeah, there is. I just
some people would pick at the power forward spot Karl Malone. That man scoring points. I mean, come on.
Yeah, but Tim Duncan's a better power forward. He's a better power forward.
Yeah, but there's been some great power forwards out there. You mentioned Kevin Garnett, Chris Webber. I mean, there's been a lot of great power forwards to come across. Kevin McHale was a beast.
Yeah, God. That now you gotta have me thinking.
Yeah,
I'm gonna be packing tonight, thinking like, God, what will be my starting five?
Yeah, because you could put Kobe in that spot as a shooting guard. I mean, him and Jordan are so much alike. Of course, I mean, Kobe won 5 championships. Yeah. I mean, that's hard to do.
Yeah,
it's hard to win one.
Right. And Kobe had a different mentality. So I watch a lot of IGs in the morning when I get up. And it's more motivational.
Yeah.
And one thing that I appreciate about Kobe is when he says, when you go to work, your boss tells you, I need you here from 9 to 5. You're there from 9 to 5. I want you to go lunch at 12. You're there at 12. I need you to do this assignment. You do that assignment. But when you make that deal with yourself, we always break it. So if you tell yourself, I'm going to do this, you do it. If the boss is telling you to do it, you would do it. So now if you tell yourself to do it, you go out there and you do it.
Yeah.
And you stay consistent with it and be disciplined about it. So I kind of take that to heart and, on my workouts or whatever I'm doing, I make that deal with myself and be disciplined. And so Kobe, he was very profound for his age.
Yeah.
Yeah. It was hard when he passed.
It was, man. Yeah. That's the tough thing. A lot of people couldn't believe it.
Right.
I heard when Shaq heard the news, he said, nah, man, this is some fake news or something.
Right.
Because life happens.
Yeah.
And death happens.
Yep.
We don't know when it's going to happen.
It's inevitable, man. It's inevitable. Like I said before, we got to take care of our next generation.
Yeah, man. Well, listen, we're going to close the show. We're going to wrap it. Give us your closing thoughts, any closing words, any words for the good of the order here ending the show. We're going to let you say your goodbyes to everyone. Any closing thoughts, any words of wisdom?
There's no goodbyes. I'm going to see you again.
All right.
So it's just keep doing the great work that you're doing. Bringing folks in here and have those tough conversations.
Yeah.
We need to be able to hear these things and not judge folks. Let's have those conversations where we don't agree and learn from one another. We're too busy looking for the right and wrong. There's a lot of gray area in there. and let's learn from one another, man. So I'm proud of you, proud of Guylon. I've known Guylon forever, and we're gonna have a conversation once I leave here on some other issues. But yeah, keep doing your thing. Like I said, I'm up for election. If people don't know whether or not to vote for me, give me a call. Shoot me a text or go on social media. We have a conversation. But let's just keep talking. Let's keep talking, keep learning, and move the city forward.
There you go, folks. That's a wrap. Another Wednesday night. You've heard it from Mr. William Cruz Shaw. Find him on social media. Find me as well, Blurb Smith Blotz. Share with us your starting 5 all time. I want to know who it is.
You're gonna get
who
that
you
text,
got at
man.
that power forward spot? Guylon, who you got? He got that's at the center spot. We'll get to you in a minute, Guylon. We're gonna go over there in a minute.
KJ, God, KJ was a solid point guard.
Yeah, he was nice too.
God, all right. That's my homework.
Hey, don't sleep on Allen Iverson.
Iverson.
Was
man.
Hey, thank you so much, folks. We'll catch you next week. Have a great night, and we'll see you soon.
All right, cool.
Ta-ta. You know who else? They said if Allen Iverson was 6'6", there'd be no conversation about who the GOAT was.
Oh, yeah.
Man, he was nice.
Yeah,
He was nice.